Mexico traffic, experimental Zenith, be departing runway 24, local flight, Mexico.
Nice day out, a little bit of wind, but a little bit to our right. I think 210 and we're on runway 24, so a little bit of a crosswind, but certainly nothing significant. Plus side, we do have some wind, get a nice short takeoff roll. We're going to taxi out a little bit here out to the, past the lights here. And we'll take off a little bit into the wind. We got a nice wide runway, so we'll use the width of our runway as well. And all right, see, everything looks good. Altimeter set, fuel is on. Full tank, flaps are checked, everything's good checked, we're ready to roll. And nearly jumps right off the ground, look at that, we're already airborne. Pretty much a stall takeoff by any way you measure it. And here we are, we're flying in the CH-750 Cruzer, which obviously, as the name implies, is not our STOL airplane, but that's a pretty good wind, it's pretty much straight down the runway. And today is in mid-January, kind of a regular day, Missouri day now. We had a cold spell, but it's warmed up a little bit. So as you see, I'm not wearing gloves or a coat. Nice day, and we do have cabin heat in the airplane. And see, even right here, climbing over 1,000 feet per minute. This airplane just likes to perform. Of course, it's got the UL350IS engine, lots of power. And here we go, climbing out. Look at that, 1,500 feet per minute right now. A little bit bumpy, so it's varying anywhere from 1,000 to 1,600 feet per minute, it seems. So we'll go out and do a quick little flight. In fact, we're not really going anywhere, so we'll just go around the patch a little bit and enjoy the flying, and try to share some of the speeds and performance numbers that we're seeing with this airplane. We get a lot of questions about it, and you know, generally for us as factory airplanes, we really don't like to exaggerate our figures too much, because we want people to be able to enjoy themselves flying. We know that most of our customers are relatively low-time recreational pilots, and we're not going to show you the performance numbers that you know, at the hands of an expert pilot necessarily. So here we are again over Mexico, and look at that, I'm just at the end of the runway, and look at that, we're already 2,100 feet above, you know, from 800-foot base, so we're already above pattern altitude. So I guess we'll depart the pattern a little bit here, and go south a little bit. A little bit bumpy, so I don't want to go too fast, but we'll maybe start climbing a little bit to find some smoother air, and then maybe show some good slow flight as well as some good cruise numbers as well. We have the GPS on board, obviously. We're flying behind the new Dynon SkyView. This is the HDX display system, little modern version of the latest version of the SkyView. Works out really well. And already here, you see, we've already throttled right back to 2450 RPM, because it's just really a good RPM for this engine. Really not pushing it. Nice thing is we still have plenty of reserve power. I kind of pointed into the wind here. Wind was at 210, so we'll kind of pick a heading of 210. And sure enough, you see our ground speed is down to 60 miles an hour, so we've got to versus about a 90 mile an hour indicated as we're still climbing. So I'm going to level off here. Throttle back a little bit, level the airplane off. And this airplane, especially compared to our STOL versions of the airplane, really flies nose down. Like, I mean, the forward visibility is really breathtaking on this airplane. Nearly feels like you're going down, but you're actually flying straight and level, which is really nice because of the forward over the nose visibility. So here we are, we're leveled off. Now we're down 2,400 RPM. It's still bumpy, so I'm not going to push it. Don't want to go too fast. We're already showing over 100 mile an hour cruise speed. But because it's kind of bumpy, I don't want to be pushing into the maneuvering speed at all too much. And maybe since we've already got 3,000 feet of above sea level altitude, about 2,200 feet above ground. We'll slow it down a little bit. We'll try to do some slow flight maneuvers a little bit. Make sure everything's nice and clear around here. Nobody around. And we'll kind of slow it right down. So here we're at 2,000 RPM. You can feel it. Things are starting to slow down. Still very firm, indicated now 60 miles an hour. Everything nice and centered. This airplane just likes to fly very well at both low speeds and high speeds at sea. Now we're already 45 miles an hour indicated. Interesting, with our headwind we're indicating a ground speed of 23 miles an hour. That's even slow for a STOL airplane. As you can see, very firm still. 40 miles an hour indicated, very solid. It actually calms right down when you're at those speeds. Now we're right around the stall, can probably kind of feel it mushy. Put the nose down just a little bit. Pick up speed very nicely. See our beautiful visibility. Put a bit of power in. Really a complete non-event. And we're again indicating in the 40s there without even actually having a brake at that point. And you see with the, well, it wasn't even a stall because we didn't lose any altitude. Once we pushed the nose down, of course, we did. But so we'll turn it around. I don't want to stray too far from our airport here. We've got plenty of altitude. And that's the other thing, this airplane does beautifully steep turns, and the visibility in those turns just awesome. Now the CH750 Cruzer, that's the fast version of our CH750 airplanes. You know, we have the standard STOL CH750 with the leading edge slats on it and the bigger tires and wheels. This is a Cruzer version with the non-slat version, a little faster tail, and then we have smaller wheels with wheel fairings on it. And again, as a cruiser, it's an excellent little cross-country machine. Nice thing about it is that, as I just demonstrated there, you know, the takeoff roll is really phenomenal for it, as well as climb and even slow flight characteristics. Really, really impressed with the wing design on this airplane. Okay, so here we are. Now we're going to cruise a little bit straight and level. Okay, we're at 3,000 feet. I'm going to try to level off at 3,000 feet. Hold that heading altitude. Although again, as soon as we get a bit of speed, we can see it's a little bit bumpier today. But ground speed's over 140 miles because of our little tailwind. Indicated again 110 right now. And we'll go a little bit faster. I don't want to go much faster because of the bumpiness, but we'll. Yeah, we do. And that engine's still purring. You know, we're at 2,700 RPM now. I'm going to pass through to probably about 27.5, and I kind of like that as a cruise RPM. We can go at that RPM all day long. We're burning still pretty good fuel burn, about between 7 and 8 gallons an hour, I believe, and over 100 horsepower. Oh, we're still climbing. Got to adjust my pitch there a little bit. You see on the ground speed there, 115 miles an hour now. No problem at all. A little bumpy, so I'm gonna throttle back just a little bit, probably 2,700 RPM. And ground speed right now, 155 miles an hour. Not bad. Of course, that's thanks to a little bit of a wind, but 115 mile an hour indicated. And as you can see, we're level flight right now, holding, well, we've climbed already a little bit, 3,200 feet, but level attitude, amazing over the nose visibility. I don't know where the position of the cameras, how well that translates, but really quite amazing. I'm going to throttle back a little bit here, 2,500 RPM. We'll do a nice steep turn. And again, it takes very little effort to get a really good steep turn in here. And again, over the top visibility, really amazing visibility around. I'll try to do this side here. Again, really enjoying the visibility. Control system is really nice on this airplane. You know, it does require some rudder in these steep turns, but it's really not a rudder airplane. If you keep your turns minimal, you know, in standard 15-degree turns, of course, I'm doing quite a bit more right now. You really don't need much rudder at all, but certainly effortless to do so. And here, kind of doing just a really nice tight turn, and not too far at all from Mexico out here. Mexico airport. And back to level here. And personally, with the 350 IS engine, I like to cruise anywhere from 2550 to 2750 RPM. Of course, the 2750 RPM, you're going to get a little bit more speed out of it. But oftentimes, I find, you know, if you're going over 100 miles an hour, you know, 110, 115, you know, it really doesn't change that much on your overall trip speed. So I find the engine runs smoothest, probably around, you know, around 2650 or so RPM, very nice and smooth. And again, fuel burn there at probably about 6 gallons per hour, so very, very attractive fuel efficiency. Had a caution thing on here, the Dynon saying is battery test needed. I'll follow that up with Roger, see what that's all about, but certainly nothing at all. Again, the Dynon screen, real easy to see, and pretty much all lighting situations, really like it that way. And, you know, and I don't use probably 80 or 90% of the features on here. I kind of leave it at the screen, or when I'm going someplace, just use a direct-to navigation, and that's about it. Like, I mean, it really is that simple. And then, of course, you can adjust the transponder through it and things like that. But I don't use most of the great features on here, but it's really nice to have, really easy to use. I'm going to slow it down again. We're kind of pointed into the wind out here. We're just going to stay pointed into the wind and just kind of slow it up a little bit. And we'll probably see again how it'll smoothen out as we get into really low speeds. Already now 85 miles an hour indicated. Oh, still bumpy. Still bumpy. I'm still relatively low and close to the airport, so I'm probably not going to do full stalls, but we can fly this airplane.
Regional, the bus interior is 10 miles speed. Northeast inbound for 18.
And pretty much, again, this airplane, nice thing about it is you can fly right down the stall, very predictable, very noticeable. Again, right here, 50s, indicating the 50s. Low 50s, and again, even though our published stall speed, I think is 51 or 52 miles an hour on this airplane, or somewhere around there. Like, I mean, we can indicate quite a bit lower than that. Of course, we got still a little bit of power as soon as whenever you have a prop that's turning. Again, right here, completely 40 miles an hour, 19 mile an hour indicated, our ground speed because of the wind. Drop the nose a little bit here. Right away pick up some nice speed, but virtually no altitude drop here because picks up speed nicely. We'll put power back in. Really easy and nice demonstration of the slow flight. And so this airplane is kind of nice because you can fly basically from 40 miles an hour indicated up to about 115 miles an hour indicated, which I think that's about as much of a performance range you're going to find in any airplane, short of having some really exotic flap system, things like that. But really for as simple of an airplane, as simple of a design that it is, really has an excellent performance envelope to fly. The nice thing is really no nasty characteristics on the slow side end of it, as well as on the higher side of it. And today, again, it's a little bit bumpy, so I can't demonstrate too much, but maybe we'll go out and do some on a nice calmer day. But again, really enjoying the view up here. And like I mentioned earlier, this is we're in mid-January. This weekend or early next week, we'll be heading down south to the Sebring U.S. Sport Aviation Expo in Sebring, Florida. And it's kind of always nice leaving the dreary winter of that we have in Missouri and going south, hopefully to some warm weather in Florida. And I always really enjoy taking the CH-750 Cruzer cross-country flying on a trip like Sebring. You know, it's a little over 1,000 miles cross-country flight. Just a perfect type of trip for this type of machine. It still makes it where it's serious enough. It's a real cross-country flight. We have to stop a few times along the way. So, you know, we have to plan with the weather and all that. So it still makes a real cross-country flight, but it's still very doable. It's not our 2 or 3 day mission. So it becomes really an enjoyable trip. Much faster, much more enjoyable than driving. Yet still enough of an adventure where we can enjoy the stops, really enjoy the countryside. When I fly cross country, I generally like to stay probably about the altitude we're at right now, about 3,000 feet, or about, you know, between 2,000 and 3,000 feet above ground. High enough where you don't have to worry at all about ground obstructions, but low enough where you can still see the country very well and see what's going on down there, see the cities, the rivers, and so forth. So it just makes it a lot more interesting. So we're overhead the Mexico airport now, and maybe I'll do a couple touch and goes, and then maybe we'll leave it at that for today. But we're still pretty high, so we'll start our descent, throttle back here, and start our descent and do a few touch and goes.
Mexico traffic, experimental Zenith is overhead the field. We'll be joining the mid-left downwind for runway 24, Mexico.
Mexico is a nice airport here at Mexico Memorial Airport. 2 runways, uncontrolled, and generally not too much activity at all. So that said, we still like to broadcast our activities so other area traffic knows what's going on. So throttle back. Our descent's doing quite well. We're still pretty high, but we'll throttle back. Not too cold, so I don't have to worry about shock cooling our engine too much. And still keeping some RPM in here. I'm getting a nice, you know, gentle rate of descent, 500 feet per minute rate of descent.
Yeah, Mexico traffic, experimental is mid-left downwind for runway 24, Mexico.
And slowing it down. Don't have my flaps in yet. I guess I'll, as soon as we get our flap extended speed, slow it down just a little bit. We'll drop our flap, put our flaps in, 80 an hour. Now we'll put a bit of flap in, feel the nose come down right away. And turn left base here. Nice clear day, great visibility out today. And we'll put our flap all the way in.
Yeah, Mexico traffic, experimental is turning base to final, runway 24, Mexico.
Adjust my elevator trim a little bit. Kind of gusty down here, but certainly not a problem. Have to throttle all the way back to get this airplane to slow down. It really likes to fly. Pretty clean design compared to the STOL airplanes. Of course, it's all about lift. This is a little bit less so. So we're about mid-60s, our approach speed now, indicated. Add a little bit of power. Because of the wind slowing us down, our ground speed, yeah, it's well under 50. Get about a 20 mile an hour wind. In the nose, I'm going to try to land it right at the displaced threshold markings because they've got those runway lights built in. So 60, kind of bumpy here, but I'll just take our time, throttle all the way back here. And let it be in a ground effect. There we go. We see we're indicated in the 30s when we're actually touching down. A little bit of a bounce on there, but now if you look, and I know I can thank some of the headwind for that, but look how short that runway, that actual landing roll was from touchdown. I don't know exactly where I touched down. Probably right around the numbers. Probably 200 feet, maybe actual landing roll. Which, not being a STOL airplane, that's pretty phenomenal. And of course, we had a bit of headwind, which helped matters. So we'll, I guess we'll come back and do another takeoff. And this time, we'll just stay in the pattern quickly and And I'll stay behind that threshold because of those lights. Okay, take my flaps back up. Typically, I really don't use any flap at all on takeoff. Certainly not today, certainly not needed.
Yeah, Mexico traffic, experimental, departing runway 24, local flight, Mexico.
So, pull the throttle all the way in, nose off the ground, and look at that, takeoff was even shorter than the landing roll. Have fun. And flaps are up, my trim tab is still set for landing. And again here, showing over 1,000 feet per minute rate of climb. So we're just going to do a short circuit here. No need to do any more than that. Start turning our crosswind over here. Here, I don't know if you can see on the camera, we've got a train going by where there's a train track just south of the field. Always fun to watch the trains go by. And bouncing around a little bit today.
Yeah, Mexico traffic, experimental is head left downwind, runway 24, Mexico.
Now we're a little lower this time around, so keep our pattern a little tighter. And start slowing things all the way down. Put our flaps down already. One of the beauties of this airplane, there's really so few things to operate on the engine. No mixture, no carburetor heat. Basically, you've got the throttle, and that's about it. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, Mexico traffic, experimental is turning base to final, runway 24, full stop, Mexico.
And we've got our runway in front of us. Flaps all the way in, get nice over the nose visibility. And pretty bumpy, so you'll see it bouncing around a little bit, but it's not jarring bumpiness, it's just, you know, certain gusts. Gonna put just a little bit of power again because of our winds. I'm just calculating a little bit of our roll because of our 20-mile-an-hour headwinds. And nice and slow, already in the 50s, and then holding in the 40s. Ooh, likes to fly. I'm floating right now. Wow, floating in the 40s. And I think that's a real short. I think that was our brake squeak. Roger, replaced the fluid in them. They work a little bit better than before. Yeah, you see our landing roll is even shorter. Look at that. Probably about 100 feet this time around. Well, let's head back and try to get some work on this Friday afternoon. Like I mentioned, we'll be heading down to Sebring, Florida, for I think the 14th time. It's the 14th annual fly-in, so look forward to doing that. And look forward to meeting any Zenith existing builders as well as new builders and customers. We're like ground speed at less than 20, and we're able to keep the nose off the ground because of the headwind. And it's a nice wind, but it's actually not that windy. It's straight down, kind of straight down the runway.